again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am your host, John. Thank you for being here. Solid topic tonight, so let's get right to it. What's the scariest thing you've ever woken up to in the middle of the night? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My Oscar fish jumped out of his 125-gallon tank, landed on the tile floor, flapped around. I was on my nightly dose of Ambien and Xanax. I woke up freaking out and immediately tried to pick him up, but he would just freak out. I grabbed a bucket and put him in it, then put him back in the tank. Then he couldn't fall back asleep from all the adrenaline. I woke up later that afternoon and looked at him. He barely got a scratch. Within a week, he's been back looking 100%. Really cool fish. He lived 7 more years and died at 14. Cool fish, but super aggressive. Kinda cool in their own right. My grandma was calling at 3 a.m. and telling me downtown is on fire. It was a small city, so downtown was a strip of businesses. One had apartments above them. One person died after alerting his neighbors about the fire. He saved many lives. Thank you, Jeremy. But yeah, I thought we'd been attacked or some crazy person had bombed downtown. Nope, just a large fire of one building. One night I woke up delirious and disoriented, walked down the hallway to the bathroom feeling like I needed to vomit and collapsed before I got there, right at the top of the stairs. No idea how long I was laying there after I fell. After a bit, my head cleared enough for me to have a panic attack about how close I was to having collapsed down the stairs. A few moments after that, it cleared enough for me to freak out about the fact that ever since getting out of bed, I had not been fully aware or in control of myself. Finally got around to puking, made it to the bathroom. Spent the rest of the night terrified something was horribly wrong with me. I'm sure I was partially still in a delirious state and panicky. Thankfully, the episode has never repeated, nor anything remotely similar. Scared the hell out of me though. Miss Matpord was also less than thrilled with the whole process. Just last week, a major storm front passed through. It was a hot night, and I was sleeping with all the windows open. At about 5 a.m. as the front approached, the air pressure dropped more extremely than I've ever seen before. It was powerful enough to wake me up. I woke up to feel and hear my house creaking like a ship at sea, and a strange whoosh as the air in the house rushed outside, and I had that strange vertigo feeling, like when your stomach drops on a roller coaster. I got out of bed and went to the window, and all was dead silent, except for the sound of many dogs barking in the distance. No feeling of wind at all, but the sound of wind everywhere. I've lived in Tornado Alley most of my life, and I love a good storm, but this was otherworldly and a little frightening. When the storm finally did arrive, it actually wasn't too bad in my neighborhood, but a lot of trees got blown down about a mile from my house. There are a couple I can think of. I grew up in New Mexico, and there was one night when I woke up randomly and heard what I now think could have been coyotes sounding outside my window. At the time, I was a teenager, and in that part of the country, skinwalkers are a pretty believed thing. So naturally, my first thought was that it was a skinwalker because the sound was so creepy and unnatural. Another time, I was sleeping and had a dream that I was facing away from my door, and when I rolled over, the light in the hallway turned off by itself. When I woke up, I was facing away from the door. I rolled over to face the door, and the light in the hall turned off by itself. By far the worst thing I have woken up to in the middle of the night was a phone call saying that my mom passed away. Rest in peace, Mom. I miss you every day. Bumps in the night and the feeling of being watched can definitely be unsettling if you wake in the middle of the night, but I don't think anything is more harrowing than hearing your phone ring at 3 a.m. and it's not a booty call. When I was 16, I slept on the couch in the living room for no reason. I had a room and a bed, but I didn't like sleeping in it. It was like 3 in the morning, and I was texting one of my friends because later that day we were supposed to go to a haunted house, and me stayed the night with her, but she went to bed. So I was like, okay, fine. It is like 3. Put my phone down, rolled over, almost asleep. Knocks on the door like 10 feet away. At 3 in the morning, I didn't dare answer, but they kept knocking. So eventually it woke up everyone else in the house, and they opened it to find my sister's boyfriend's aunt and uncle on our doorstep at 3 in the morning. 1 second I was excited about going out with friends. The next, my entire world fell apart with one sentence. There was an accident. My sister, best friend, substitute mother, amazing mother of 1 and 2-year-old, just finally got away from an abusive marriage and found a stable job and love. Was literally moving stuff in a van from her old house she had shared with her husband to her new apartment She had just signed the lease on that day. On the way back, bam, wreck. Van totally destroyed. Our worlds totally destroyed. I didn't sleep for weeks. They eventually had to basically drug me so I could sleep. 10 years later, and I still do not go to sleep until after 3 just in case. 10 years ago, and not a day goes by I don't miss her. She was only 21, and when it happened and everyone was going on about so young, I thought that was a bit silly because she was an adult. Now I'm 26, older than she ever got to be, even though she was 5 years older than me. I remember being 21. She died so effing young. I had trouble sleeping alone at night when I was little, so I'd sleep in bed with my parents sometimes. One night, my dad woke up and started freaking out about feeling and seeing a very tall and lanky person lay on him, and then get up and walk away. Me and my mom were very confused and don't know what was happening, but it took a long time to get my dad to go to sleep, and once he did, we were all so exhausted, we fell right back to sleep. I brought this up to my parents a few weeks ago, and they have no recollection of this ever happening. They looked at me like I was insane. I have a bad memory, so they just wrote it off as a dream. I had, but I swear it actually happened. I remember it so clearly. My dad was drinking heavily at the time, so I think as a kid I wrote it off as that, but looking back, that's not necessarily normal for him. That house was always creepy too. Footsteps in the middle of the night, and stuff like that. An unexplainable loud crash outside of my bedroom door. It was so loud I grabbed a bat and called out to my brother 2 stories up, but I could hear him snoring away. So I tiptoed up the stairs, bat in hand, in the dark because I thought I could sneak up to a potential intruder. Just when I made it to the 2nd floor landing, I see a faint blue light glowing in the kitchen. As I walk over to it, I realize it was a gas stovetop that I left on from hours ago. I was pretty sure it was a guardian spirit watching out for me. Days later, I found a 3-step stool ladder on the floor in the closet beneath the stairs connected to my bedroom. The ladder was always in that closet, leaned up against the wall. If it would have fallen down on its own though, the bottom would have slid out first because of the way it's leaned against the wall. However, I found it pushed over, so the top toppled over, causing a loud crash that woke me up. This was the first ever paranormal experience. I don't have any other explanations. So a few hours before this happened, I was just scrolling horror TikTok for some reason, and I saw one video saying that if you wake up at like 3 in the morning for no reason, it's probably cause something is staring at you. I don't give it much thought at the time, but lo and behold, I woke up somewhere around that time. Immediately I remember the video and start thinking the worst. I'm incredibly paranoid. I could barely move out of fear, but I mustered the courage to look around my room. I look to the right and see nothing. I look to the left and see my fat-ass dog just staring right into my soul. I then had a good laugh, and I give my dog props because he got me so good. Lived in an old building in New York City. Had a neighbor across the hall that would have night terrors seldomly. First time it happened, it was about 4 a.m., and I was pretty sure she was getting murdered from the piercing screaming and loud thumps from her flailing around and the sound of glass breaking. I grabbed a meat cleaver and went into the hallway in my underwear to see that everyone else in the building was also awake and poking their heads out into the hallway, wondering what to do. Me and 2 other neighbors eventually knocked on her door, and when she answered, she looked pale like a ghost and was dripping in sweat. She didn't remember any of it, apologized and explained to us her condition. That was some blood-curdling shit. She was very apologetic about it and brought all of us 6 packs of beer for freaking us out. Me and the 2 neighbors that decided to take action were all 100% sure that she was getting murdered at that moment. I lived there for 2 years, and I think she only had 2 episodes during that time. Are we positive that it was night terrors and not a night visitor that she was very energetic about? A cop walking into my Airbnb at 4 a.m. in Tennessee. Somehow he had the code and just walked in. I was sleeping on the couch right near the front door. He yelled at me and asked my name and what I was doing there. I was dazed and said, "Ugh, I'm sleeping here, man." And he's like, "We were called about a B&E at this address." And I said, "I don't know, man." And he was like, "Well, sorry to disturb you." And he walked out. Found out later that the call came in from a different address, and the cop still had the door code from a previous call that was put in at this building before. This is where I learned if someone breaks into where I'm sleeping in the middle of the night, I ain't gonna do shit. My reaction time is about 5 minutes. I was 4 years old. I was staying in my great-grandmother's house, which was 100 feet behind my house. I was with my grandmother. I was in my own bed. I wake up one night, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, kinda groggy, and then I see it. There's a severed head in my bed. There was no mistaking it. There were the eyes, there was the hair, there was the entire outline. It was a severed head in my bed. So I scream. I scream as loud as I possibly can. I scream for like 10 seconds. I'm crying screaming. Then my eyes start to adjust. It was pitch black with only the outside streetlights lighting the room, barely. It was a pillow, a square pillow. No head, no hair, no nothing. A pillow with a weird effing pattern on it. Luckily, no one got up to check on the screaming, stupid kid. One night at 3:33 a.m., my very friendly and calm dog started growling in a low growl like dogs do right before they attack. I sat up and her hackles were up and she didn't flinch as she continued her deep growl while staring at the closet door. I turned on the light and tried to get her attention, but she just stood there crouched, ready to pounce while growling and showing her teeth. I grabbed my gun and opened the closet and looked in, but nothing there. As soon as the door was opened, she lunged at the closet and looked around, sniffed all over, then calmed down. I had her for 12 years at that point and had never heard her growl before and never saw her have her hackles up. She was super sweet and calm. I had her come with me and we checked the whole house and nothing. Never found out what freaked her out so much. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. Alright, you paranormal experts and skeptics, what do you think that dog saw? Was it an insect or a small rodent? Or was it a ghost or other entity? If you don't believe in the paranormal, that's okay. I'm quite skeptical myself, even though I've had multiple experiences. Just at least trust this is what made my mind and many believe it my experience. So it started when I moved into the back room from the living room. Long story, don't worry about it. I began having nightmares, night terrors, and sleep paralysis almost every night. I was having hallucinations of rats and snakes crawling on me. It was incredibly vivid. Sometimes there'd be a tall, dark being who would crouch on my chest and push me onto the bed every time I tried to sit up. Then began things being knocked around. The most common was my keys being knocked off my desk. It wasn't me placing them on the edge or an earthquake or whatever. They would slide a good foot or so off the table and plop onto the floor. It woke me up every time. This would also snap me out of my sleep paralysis if I happened to be experiencing it at the time. My clothes began falling out of my closet and ended up in piles around my room. Then loose change would get thrown around my room randomly. You could hear it bouncing off the walls and door from other rooms. My dog stopped coming in my room altogether. Like even food could not get my dog to come into my room. He would sleep in the hallway just outside my door, but never would he cross the doorway. People who came over would tell me all the time that walking past my door would freak them out for some reason, that my room was unnaturally dark, and they didn't like having to walk past it. You have to in order to get to the bathrooms. I had been calling the experiences my demon. It was sort of a joke with my friends and family. Everyone knew about what was happening, some had experienced it. I was not sleeping, and my mental and physical health were deteriorating. Everyone could see it, and knew why. My sister said that one time she walked past my room and saw a figure. She thought it was me, and asked why I was standing in the dark, and then the figure just sort of dissolved into the darkness. Then we get to the scariest thing I woke up to. I was having a restless night. Nightmares had become very common, and these were particularly bad. I woke up in a start, and in the corner next to my laundry basket, I saw someone crouching down with their back turned to me. It wasn't a shadowy figure or a silhouette. It was like a full-on person in my room. It was like my mind couldn't see any details, though, but it was sure someone was there. They turned and looked at me. I couldn't see their face, but I could feel like them looking at me. I was beyond scared. Then they were just gone. Like, I didn't blink or look away. It was more like my brain just stopped registering it. In my sleepy state, I didn't know what to think, so I ran through the house making sure all the doors were locked. After a few weeks, the fear began dying and was replaced with annoyance. Like I was getting annoyed with my keys being pushed off the table to put them in a box. I began taking sleeping medication just to zonk out and not dream. Things moving or being tossed were just annoying. Eventually, everything stopped, and I didn't have any more experiences of that kind. I did have another experience, but that was a totally different one. Woke up to seeing a large dark figure in my doorway, hallway light behind it, screamed at it to get out, and it ran towards the front door. I got out of bed and chased. as saw it multiple times, just a 6-foot human-shaped shadow. The front door opens and I burst out right behind it. My 5'1" SO was bawling on the floor of the hallway, telling me to wake up. Had 2 neighbors, doors open and looking at us like I was beating her, and they were about to jump me. Somewhere in that mess, I woke up and was not doing great. I had apparently woken up, screamed in her face, and when she ran, I chased. So I guess that could probably be her answer too.